good afternoon. We're going to call for a recess pending. We're just going to call for recess. Okay. Do I need to hit the gavel?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to recess.
Thank you.
I'll shoot you, because I don't have cartoon. I'll shoot you with something, and maybe sometime when you're in the area, you can swing by.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Say hi. Figure out how I might be able to help you.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
And then when there, just tell them
Right.
that walks in.
Yeah, well, you have to write your name.
Join me.
All right, call to order?
Yes,
What else do I say? Call to order.
you got it.
This meeting is called to order.
Dang the gavel.
All right. Okay, call to order for the actual Public Arts and Design Board, Design Advisory Board, sorry. All right, so the first order of business is the approval of the minutes from last week. Do I have somebody to,
Motion to approve?
motion to approve? Have a second?
Second.
All right, motion to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion moves forward. Sorry, I hit the gavel, I just can't help it. I want to keep doing it.
You
All right, minutes are approved. Now I can sign officially. All right, that takes care of the minutes. Next order of business are citizens to be heard.
Just coming to bring you some pretty pictures. Beth Daniels with the Clearwater Arts Alliance. Just wanted to give you a brief update. Just a few things that have happened since you've last met that you might not have seen yet. We've got a couple for each of you.
Thank you, Ms. Beth.
We've been busily wrapping some signal boxes with some interesting new designs, so at least there's some color coming up in different places.
Isn't that
Keep you posted. The one with the single page, where we've got all the views of it, is for the Plaza Park, I always say that backwards, Plaza Park neighborhood. Is there a place to put it? Right there. And that is one of the ones being done with funding from your group. So that image was created in collaboration with the neighborhood association, working with a group of neighbors to come up with a concept and a design. And it actually ties into about a block. This is at Seminole and North Myrtle, so really just over here. As you turn to the east, about a block and a half in that neighborhood is a small little pocket park. And there's already a little painted pathway that the same artist had done. So they worked with her to sort of build upon that. And the really small box, which is right here in the drawing, is actually not a signal box, but some type of a cabinet that's holding electronics for some landscape lighting in that little pocket park. So we worked with the neighborhood association to sort of fold those things together so that, you can sort of see it's something for their neighborhood and it ties the area nicely together. And the other one with the 3 images, the other 2 have been done recently, not with special neighborhood money, or at least not for an area that doesn't have many art amenities. The one on the right is the Sand Key Association, and they reached out to us directly saying, gee, we think we'd like to ourselves, our organization, find an artist who's part of our community and do that. So that's on the box that's at the base of the Sand Key Bridge. It's the only signal box that's in that community. And the other one is an image by Don Gillespie, who's a good local artist, used to be on our Arts Alliance board, and he won the second prize at the reception and fundraiser we had last season. And since his wasn't the winner, but we thought it was really worthwhile, we then took some money that was raised at that event and wrapped the box at Druid and South MLK. So it's kind of a downtown location. So just things that have been going on with us that we wanted you to be aware of, and thank you.
Awesome.
Is that the right way? These are hard. Anyway,
Got it.
those are things that are happening, and those also have now been updated on our website. So every location of every box we've done, and we're now up to 38, is shown on the website. So, and with the artists' names recognized, which we think is important. So we're sad that apparently Ms. Roberts has had some family issues and has moved away from the area. So I think there will be a necessity to replace that position. But Jonathan is also on the CAA board, so we hope he will be able to serve in that capacity, and that you'll find another citizen that will fill that spot. So thank you, and if there's any questions about what we're up to, happy to answer them if I can.
You're gonna run out of boxes to fill up.
Yeah, there's a lot of them still out there. Well, the trick is that we need to get permission from FDOT and the county, because there's tons of other, I call them available canvases,
Yes.
so to speak.
Yep.
Available, but they have to say, since they own and control the capital.
Yep.
The only ones we have protocol for right
City of
now
Clearwater.
are fully city controlled. But we still have a few of those, so we'll keep
I was
working.
gonna say, there probably can't be too many City of Clearwater ones left over. That's what I was thinking, was the City
Yeah,
of
but
Clearwater
it just
ones.
depends on the roadway, and it's
Yeah.
sort of no rhyme or reason which ones at which corners are controlled by whom. You just have to go to the famous map, find out, and make sure before you put all the effort in that it's one you were A-okay to do. So far, so good.
And I will say, I'm super impressed by how the longevity, those have not faded. There's been one near my place that's been, it's actually.
We're thrilled. I mean, it is an expensive process because there's, besides the print layer and the demand we make of very high density digital for the image, there's a clear layer that is strictly sun and weather protection that we're paying to have laminated on there. But, I mean, the oldest one that we know of is like 8.5 years now, and it's not showing any loss of color
degradation.
or,
Yeah, it's,
peeling or anything like that, so we're thrilled.
I'm impressed because I've seen the paints all over, and even the murals, they can't stay, which is tough.
All kinds
but
of
that's-
things that are
works great.
fading or pulling away
Yeah.
in the zone, so, thank you. Any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Any members have any questions? No?
I had just a brief question. Have we had any feedback or from the communities that these are in?
They love them. I mean, we've had one guy in Countryside that doesn't like one of the boxes that is, and it's in a very commercial area. I mean, you turn, from 580 and Countryside Boulevard or whatever.
That's the one that's mine. So
But-
but I'm not the one complaining. I love it.
No, but I mean, other than that, and there was one that was a heron or a bird that somebody said the gray box was prettier than the bird, and I figured, I'm not really gonna worry about that person. Most of all the feedback is, we love it, keep putting them up because they're colorful and they look better than the ugly boxes.
Appreciate that. Anybody else? No? Okay, moving on. Any other citizens to be heard? All right. Next, our business is new business items. We'll start with number 4.1, the asphalt art community projects.
Good afternoon, Amber Bryce, Arts and Cultural Affairs Coordinator. So I have been discussing a possible asphalt art project with the CRA. CRA originally had the idea to paint the 15-minute parking spaces on Fort Harrison and Cleveland in front of Starbucks. And that project was put on hold because the original artist quote was too high. So after attending the Florida Arts for Public Art Professional Conference and seeing how other cities handle projects like this and talking with the CRA, they're in full support, and I think it's a project that we can easily implement that won't cost the city a lot of money. It'll allow us to involve the community, possibly work with schools or young emerging artists to allow them some public art experience. This could be an ongoing project we do every couple of years. Since it's on the street, it's, doesn't last very long, so there's not a lot of, it's something we can do repetitively, and there's not a lot of risk involved. Obviously, we work with traffic department to make sure the artists are safe, and it would give us an opportunity to have a new piece of art every couple of years. And looking further out, my big vision would be to paint all of Cleveland from Fort Harrison to Osceola, since that's now just a blocked off road that's strictly for pedestrian. We can kind of have art leading people down into the new Coachman Park and maybe paint that intersection as well. So the CRA seems pretty on board with all of this. So we're still in the early stages, but it's something we're discussing.
So is that something that we want to think about funding through at least partially funding through our group? Looking to use some of the discretionary funds, or is there another fund source for that?
It would probably be funded mostly by the CRA since it was their project to begin with. It was their idea, and it's just me kind of piggybacking on that. So that hopefully would be mostly CRA funding.
Okay. All right. Anything we can do to help move it forward?
No, like I said, it's very early stages, but yeah, once we kind of maybe get a plan in place, I'll definitely let you all know.
Awesome. Anybody have any questions? That's too easy. All right. Awesome. Next item is the Americans for Art surveys.
So as I told the board the last time we were here, the Americans for the Arts does an economic impact study every 5 years. This has to be surveys collected in person at arts and cultural events, both ticketed events and free events. Clearwater was charged with collecting 350 surveys. This gauges how much money events like this bring into our local economy. So these were due May 31st. I came into this position on March 1st. We had 0 completed. So we collected surveys at 18 separate events, 14 of which I personally attended over the last 8 weeks. I'm very happy to announce we have 352 surveys that we've collected.
Nice job.
So,
You've accomplished the unaccomplishable. Nice job, Amber.
So I want to give a big thank you to the Clearwater Arts Alliance. They collected surveys for their art walks. Kayla Grant at the Clearwater Main Library, Arian Hollinsworth at the Clearwater Countryside Library. They collected surveys at their author talks and their art outreach events. And then Sandy Villasuso at Ruth Eckerd and Kendra Merolf at Capitol Theater. They let me set up a table at a lot of their concerts and events, and that really helped me collect all these surveys.
Awesome. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. So that's a success story. Awesome.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? All right. Next item is the open call for artists.
So as most of you know, we have 3 open calls for artists right now. The water tank mural call is closing next Friday the 16th. A selection panel has already been scheduled for June 20th. Jonathan Barnes is going to be the representative for this board for that panel. And then we have a couple of other, we have a Arts Alliance member, Public Utilities Director, Water Production Division Manager, myself, and then we got an arts teacher from the Countryside High School, because that's the area that the water tank is in. So they'll be on the panel. As of right now, we have 25 submissions, only 16 of which are Florida residents, and that was a requirement. So the other 9 are considered ineligible. We will select 3 finalists who will be paid for their formal proposal, and the winner will be chosen by public vote. Hopefully we'll have an online survey. People can put in their email address. They can only vote once and vote for which design or which artist they like the best.
Okay, let's try to think of that. So you narrow it down to 3, then the 3 proposed, and the public actually selects. Okay.
Yeah. And my thought is, that's the microphone. My thought is, since we have 3 mural walls out front of Coachman Park, as well as a potential mural festival, which I'll talk about, we may ask the finalists or other artists who've submitted their qualifications who aren't selected for this project to possibly participate in those projects. The second call we have is the Mercado. We've opened this up, this was just Florida. We've opened this up to international submissions because we just weren't receiving enough mosaic artists, especially for the scale and the budget of this project, so we decided to open it internationally. So we've received 18 submissions so far. Some of those are not mosaic artists, but that call closes July 19th, so we still have some time for that one. And then the third one is the Fire Station 46 sculpture. We've received 10 submissions for that, and that one closes August 18th, so that one's the furthest out. So ideally, I would like to have 1 Public Art and Design Board member be on these selection panels for voting. So we'll schedule with you all.
All right, do we need to make that selection today?
Well, I only have the 1 date set, and Jonathan Barnes is your person.
Do we need to do the selection for the Station 46? You said you want 1 art board member.
On the Mercado and the Fire Station one, I would like someone from the Public Art and Design Board to be on the panel, but we haven't scheduled those panels yet.
Oh, so you want
They
to
haven't
actually make that
closed.
selection yet? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
we'll wait.
Let's try and explain to volunteer.
That's it.
All right, awesome. Anybody have any questions besides myself? Nobody's talking. No one talking here. Jeez. Okay. The FAPAP conference.
Yeah, they call it FAPAP, but it's the Florida Association of Public Art Professionals. So I attended that conference in Orlando, May 9th through 11th. I made some really great connections with artists and other Florida arts and cultural professionals. It's really interesting to see what other cities are doing, creative ways they're incorporating art into a space. We talked about technology and how that will kind of emerge into the art space. And I have plans to meet quarterly with kind of the Tampa Bay area people to discuss, what they have planned, how we can work together, how we can help each other, and things like that. So that'll kind of segue into my next point, but
Okay,
That's all I got.
that's actually a good way to have some of the discussions. I know some of the folks over at Tampa Airport that we can get you hooked up with as well if you need help with them, because I worked over there for a few years for their art. I mean, you want to bring all those art groups together, not necessarily just the cities, the municipalities, but maybe there as well, so.
and I actually met her, I don't know her name, but in
Okay.
terms of the flamingo installation, I got to meet her, yes.
Yeah, that flamingo's something else. Yeah.
What's its name? They named it recently.
Phoebe.
What was it?
What was it?
Phoebe.
Phoebe.
Officially, it's called Home, but they nicknamed it Phoebe.
It's interesting. That was a long time coming too, but, okay, awesome. Next item is the potential for the mural festival.
So this kind of leads into my last point. So I got to meet the director of the Shine Mural Festival in St. Pete, and really got to talk with her about how St. Pete does their mural festival, and I really would like to implement this festival on a smaller scale in Clearwater, and ideally every year we'd focus on a different neighborhood. So after speaking with the CRA director and her team, they seem very on board. We're going to try to move forward with maybe having our smaller scale mural festival in February, March of 2024. We're in the initial planning stages right now. I have a meeting tomorrow with special events, CRA neighborhoods, and the director of the Shine Mural Festival. So we'll kind of discuss what this could look like. The Gateway District in downtown is very pro-mural. A lot of their citizens, they apply for grants to put murals on businesses and things like that. So I think that's the logical, maybe first neighborhood that we start with, and has CRA funds available for that, which is nice. And then the second location would be maybe North Greenwood, because the CRA has been approved for that neighborhood as of last week or 2 weeks ago. So once this event has maybe 2 years under its belt, the public, the community sees how beautiful this is and gets some interest for it, and then other neighborhoods maybe want to be involved, and then we can establish a budget to maybe have a yearly festival. That's my idea.
I like it.
Very exciting.
It is exciting. That's awesome.
Yeah. So.
Bring more color. Okay. Anybody have any questions, more questions on that? No? All right. That concludes our new business, so then next one is director's report.
So just touching on some things that we spoke about the last meeting. Some of you had asked about the lighting, the underlighting of the Memorial Bridge. I did speak with my director about that, and we kind of did some deep diving, and the original budget for that was about like $250,000, I believe, and quotes were coming in at closer to $1.1 million. So I don't believe the city is planning to move forward with that project at this time, unfortunately. That's, I spoke with planning and engineering, and it doesn't seem like that's going to move forward. So that's where that is, that project. Some of you had mentioned cleaning the Centennial Oak art piece outside of the main library. I do plan to clean it, but we have to wait till construction is completely finished and the dust is literally settled for that. There was also discussion about the Substation 3 police station mural the last time. We said, we weren't going to go forward with it. But then I spoke with former police chief Slaughter, now the assistant city manager, and he wants to move forward with a mural on the outside of the building. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Proposed budget is $10,000 for that project. This is one we might also pull applications from this open mural call now, so we don't have to do a separate call, but we'll see how that goes. And lastly, I spoke with our public communications team about creating a landing page for the city website, specifically for art in the city. Right now, if you go to the website, everything's kind of sectioned off, so there's a mural wall page, and the Crest Lake Park sculptures are under the Crest Lake Park page. So I would like to have one dedicated page that's just all art in the city, has the name of the piece, the artist, a little bio, things like that, and then we can start implementing QR codes on the plaques of art that will take everybody to this one landing page. So they'll find out about the piece of art they're interested in, but maybe it'll gauge interest for other art in the city and make them want to go see that.
There had been an effort to catalog everything.
Yep.
So I believe the cataloging descriptions and that kind of stuff does exist with the city, because I know that some work that I've done with the city, I had started to do that and turned all that material over.
Right.
I think that might have been 2 years ago.
Yep.
And I know
remember
Clearwater
that
Arts
too.
Alliance also has some, because they did the walk, the sculpture walk, so I think if we can kind of combine our forces, we won't have to reinvent the wheel on that. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that. And that's it for me.
Okay. Even though we started late, we're getting done way, way early.
It's very efficient.
All right, well, if there are board members to be heard, I was going to say, I thought there's one more piece, board members to be heard. So any board members have anything they want to say?
I do. Some time ago, I was asked by poet Larry Jaffe, who's a beat poet who's lived in Clearwater for some time, why we don't have a poet laureate in the city of Clearwater. That's a question I've had for some time as well. St. Petersburg has a poet laureate. The first one down there was Peter Meinke, who became our state poet laureate. Then it was Helen Wallace, and now it's, I can't remember her name, she's a professor at Eckerd College. Tampa has a wordsmith, Gianna Russo, and Safety Harbor also has a poet laureate. Poet laureate is, and I can, if there's interest in looking further at this, I can bring some information about what each of these positions at other cities requires and what they do and all, and bring a more purposeful presentation. Basically, though, they do things like if there's something to be dedicated, they will, like a new park or things like that, they will do that. They will be involved with poetry competitions by students, connect with doing maybe workshops, have something to do with public displays of poetry. I think it's one of the post offices in Tampa. They did a thing where they engraved poetry into some of the tiles that are used on the post office, and the wordsmith there had something to do with that. And I'll give you a full disclosure. I've been a poet for about 30 years. I teach at St. Petersburg College, so I have a further interest. Usually, the poet laureate will reside in the city. I don't know if it's possible to come from outside of the city, or if that's desired. City of Dunedin recently asked me to write a poem for the dedication of their sculpture called The Sea, which is in front of the new city hall there. So basically the poet laureate position is unfunded, although it could be funded, especially if there were things that would require funds. And the requirements would be set up by the board and the city, and the duties would also be set up. And sometimes they're fairly light duties. Sometimes they're fairly they're more involved. So what I wanted to ask basically was, is that something that we would want to consider? And if so, I can bring some more information next time and give a more purposeful presentation.
I think it's a fabulous idea. I think it adds a richness to the fabric that we're currently creating. I think it would be a requirement. They would have to live in the city, and so it's just another way to get another aspect of art and citizens involved. And I love the interaction with students. I'm definitely interested. And I did, pardon me, but full disclosure, I chuckled when you started talking about what you're talking about. Seriously? But then you kept talking about it. I thought, well, that's really very cool. And it's a nice addition, a nice layer of what we're trying to create and enhance of what we already have. So I think it's a lovely idea.
I think it's a good idea as well, and just really getting familiar with your work now, I think it would be enlightening to the arts community and to incorporate that more and get it out in the light. We have one literature person that won the Emerging Artists and their books and everything. I have one question is where would the central location be for that? Or would that be at different locations?
As I've understood it from talking to some of the other poets laureate in the area, they really go to whatever area is relevant. So it's one of the nice things is since it's not really an installation,
Right.
it could be at a presentation downtown, or it could be
Meet up at coffee shops and those different type of things?
it could be something like that. Like there was, one thing I was involved with recently was, well, was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago, was there was a poetry competition for high school students for it was in poems to be, I forget what the title was, poems to be embossed every time a piece of sidewalk was replaced. They would emboss students' poems in there. And I was on the board that reviewed all those poems and chose them. So that would be probably something that Poet Laureate would be involved with. And whether there would be readings or some coordination of things, or even maybe bringing in people from outside of the area to do readings, or I don't know, it's pretty much wide open. Peter Meinke wrote a poem called Lassing Park. So the city asked him if he would write about, they were rededicating this park after doing some work for it. And so he wrote a poem on that.
I believe that comments have been made that we put so much emphasis on visual arts and questions about why don't we do more with performance art or other aspects of art. So I see this as a way of answering some things that we have been requested of us as a board and as of a city. Well, the city does a lot with performance arts and that kind of stuff, so I'll just say from the board.
I think it's definitely something we can look into and possibly implement. I think it's a great idea.
Okay.
And I can reach out to Safety Harbor, Tampa, St. Pete, see what their relationship looks like. with
Okay,
their
I can actually
laureates.
send you some, I've got some of those forms and
Yeah.
things.
And I know even at the library, I know that there's a program specialist here that has a theater background, and she does blackout poetry program, which they have pages, and you just kind of black out letters and words, and it becomes a poem.
Mhm.
We're talking about doing some sort of poetry slam, so I think we'd have some support programming-wise from the library,
Mhm.
for sure, and then we could incorporate different events and things like that, but it's a great idea.
So moving forward, should I ask to be on the agenda next time and then bring a presentation, or do I go mostly through giving things to you, or? how do-
I mean, you can do it under board members to be heard and still have a presentation. I mean, if you want me to add it to the agenda, I will, but,
Whatever seems appropriate.
and I can hand it off to you, we can do that.
I think actually I would suggest that we put it on the agenda, and then Amber, if you could just double check, because it seems to me like I'm just throwing this out there, that it's a great idea, by the way, I agree as well. So it seems like we're on consensus, it's a good idea, it's an awesome idea, actually. But to see that whether or not it's something that would fall in, I mean, I don't want to put something out from our presence, but maybe it may even be a little bit higher level than us here. Like that could fall underneath the city council as another piece of the puzzle. So put it on an agenda, we could talk about it, and if you wouldn't mind, I'd request that we take a look and see, is there a structure that might have that position or a laureate fall somewhere else? Because as much as we'd love to keep it here, it may have a different place within the
Yeah,
city.
that would, I think usually it's a city council that,
If we have an official, something that's going to be
Yes.
official, it would have to be approved by city
Right.
council. So once maybe we decide, and you
Yep.
all decide what that looks like, and we
Someday,
would bring it to council
Yep.
for approval.
Awesome. Sweet.
I have something, Bryce, I wanted to acknowledge you. This is not an easy seat to move into. And as a long-term member of this board, having seen multiple people move in and move out, and move up and move out, I just wanted to recognize, I think you're doing a great job keeping up with the stuff and learning things and keeping things moving forward. And I just want to say thanks.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Very much.
Any other members that want to be heard?
Well, I'm
Teresa, you sure? Speak now or forever hold back. All right, well then that actually completes our agenda for the day. So if there's nothing else, then this, do I need to,
Hit the gavel.
no, do we need to get any seconds or anything like that? Make sure, no. Okay, good, we can end this meeting. Meeting is adjourned. 2 minutes.